Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Things are going great on my end, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm as busy as it could possibly be. Not complaining, though I am a bit disappointed that I'm recording this video at a time where it should already be finished and edited. But no excuses, I got a film that I'm very excited to talk about. So John Wick Chapter 4 is a film that I've been highly anticipating since the last film in the franchise back in 2019. The third installment of the franchise left us on quite the cliffhanger. So 4 years is quite a long time to be waiting with bated breath. But before even talking about Chapter 4, let's take a quick trip down memory lane. John Wick 1 was a cultural phenomenon for many people, though I dare say for myself, it never quite resonated in the same way. A lot of that has to do with timing and context. I watched the film quite a few years after its initial release back in 2014, and quite frankly, I stumbled upon it by accident. Now, don't get me wrong, I was enthralled by Keanu Reeves' performance and the obvious dedication it took to prepare for this film. And it is cool to see Chad Stahelski, who's been helming the entire franchise thus far, make quite a splash with the directorial debut with the first film. And this probably is common knowledge for most people today, but in case you weren't aware, Chad Stahelski was Keanu Reeves' stunt double back in the day. So it is quite the exciting full circle creative moment here that they got going, and clearly they haven't tired working together. Also, personally, as a level designer, the environments are pretty inspiring. Look no further than that bathhouse scene. God damn, that was cool. And I don't think anyone can deny the power of that narrative kickstarter that sent John Wick down this downward spiral of carnage and revenge. Yeah, I'm a doggo lover myself. Enough said on that. But in my eyes, it was John Wick 2 that catapulted the series into new, incredible artistic heights. The art direction, cinematographic, and choreography upgrade that went into this film is nothing short of legendary at this point in time. And John Wick 3 essentially gave me more of everything I loved about the previous two films. That trilogy demonstrates an incredible creative high from all involved in this project. And as far as I'm concerned, this film set an industry-wide standard in artistry and choreography in any action film on planet Earth. So, the million-dollar question is, can John Wick Chapter 4 keep that creative flame alive? In my humble opinion, the answer is a resounding yes. Once again, just a quick reminder that John Wick 3 ended on quite the cliffhanger. So with that being said, I could not have asked for a more powerful opening scene. The opening moments of the film were simply enthralling. So bear with me for a moment, it's possible that I'm geeking out way too much over this, but I do think I have legitimate reasons for having this reaction. The cinematography and symbology of the opening scene has an element that evokes a sensation of a phoenix rising from the ashes. Oh my god. I don't want to go into too much more detail because I feel like already I'm kind of spoiling a bit too much to my liking, but it really felt like John Wick was hammering away at a mystical gong that was heralding the beginning of a new era and this resurrection of sorts. The power of the imagery on screen paired with the sound was absolutely earthquake-inducing. I don't know how else to describe it other than to say that that was so fucking cool. And from that opening moment, the film immediately begins to continue building on this idea of this phoenix rising from the ashes with this absolutely spellbinding shot of a slow and rising sun. Yeah, John Wick Chapter 4 has quite the opener. And in hindsight, now that I've seen the film about a week ago, it does make me think back to Blood Meridian. Yeah, that book I seem to be bringing up over and over again on this YouTube channel. But jokes aside, maybe the cinematographic talent behind the John Wick films could and maybe should take a shot at adapting that book into a film. Granted, it is a bit of an impossible task. We even had a master filmmaker like Todd Field who apparently did attempt to adapt that book into film during his 16-year period between Little Children and Tar. That didn't work out for him, and frankly, as I mentioned in a previous video, I'm not surprised. It's a crazy, crazy book to adapt into film. So yeah, this isn't so much of an open petition to get Chad Stahelski and the others to work on this film, but I gotta say, I never in a million years would have thought that, hey, I would be inspired by John Wick to think of Blood Meridian. I may be daydreaming here for a moment, but you really can't deny the visual power of John Wick Chapter 4. So yeah, right from the start, the compositions are mighty. And things only get more impressive from here on out in the nearly 3-hour runtime of this film. They went absolutely overkill with the composition in this film. As far as I'm concerned, the use of color and lighting in this film sets an industry-wide standard in action films. And what I love the most about it is that it's not just the use of color to help make a pretty picture. It's really used as a narrative and mise-en-scène tool. The visual storytelling they create here is fantastic. The set designs themselves are equally state-of-the-art in this very crowded era of action and high-budget Hollywood films. Like I mentioned a moment ago, already the previous films were quite the inspiration for me as a level designer, but this latest iteration takes things even further. The John Wick films always had a bit of a video game vibe, and I always wondered, is this perhaps a reference and an influence at times? And I think this film kind of confirms it in a way, because there's one scene in particular where the camera perspective and the environment literally made me feel like I was living inside a Hotline Miami game. I can't believe I never thought of connecting those dots previously. Truly, the film is an artistic tour de force in pretty much almost every aspect of filmmaking. The costumes are no exception. In fact, at times the film feels like a goddamn fashion show. Everyone in the cast looks simply outstanding. And speaking of the cast, there is quite a wide range of memorable heroes, villains, and characters who kind of flirt between both lines. And before moving any further with this review, rest in peace to Lance Reddick, who played Charon the concierge. Honestly, his role in the film was a lot to take in, given the fact that he just passed away really not too long before the release of this film. Yeah, that was heavy, and I'm leaving it at that. Moving on, of course, Keanu Reeves is still sensational in his role as John Wick. And in this film, he particularly has choice few words to say in this nearly 3-hour-long film. Apparently, he utters less than 400 words in the entire film. Though to be fair, I guess he makes a convincing argument for that saying where actions speak louder than words. And my god, you're gonna get a lot of action. I really gotta take my hat off to the man because he gives everything of himself into this film and into the fighting. God damn! It is a relentless and visceral brawl from beginning until the last frame of the film. Somewhere nearly 2 hours into the film, I had to run to the bathroom, but I just couldn't take my eyes off the screen. There was always something spectacular or a crazy chain sequence of amazing choreographies and action set pieces that would just keep me glued to the screen. Though as exciting as the action undoubtedly is, I think I can meet critics halfway and agree that, you know what, maybe the overall rhythm and pacing of the film is a bit exhausting. Truly, this film torpedoes at an incredibly breakneck pace, and it's this incredibly high state of action frenzy that, as far as I can remember, doesn't stop for most of the film's runtime. It would be interesting to rewatch the film and actually analyze just how much downtime there is in the film. And to continue on this idea, perhaps there is a bit too much repetition in some of the fighting to the point where you almost feel like you're bludgeoned into a sense of monotony because it's just all crazy all the time. And speaking of repetition, there's quite a like I do genuinely like about Shamir Anderson's character, who is known as Mr. Nobody. But I can't help but feel that essentially I feel that he's kind of a rehash of the same character archetype that Halle Berry had in John Wick Chapter 3. It does feel somewhat redundant in my humble opinion. Don't get me wrong, once again there are interesting aspects to his character, and he does have a few very memorable scenes. So I wouldn't necessarily be averse if we ever got a spin-off story using this character either in a film or series format, granted of course that there's the right creative incentive to create those stories. And on that note, they do seem to be hinting quite heavily at the fact that we would get a spin-off story with Don Yen's character who plays Kane. And speaking of Kane, he truly is one of the major narrative highlights in this film. Just the idea of having him as a blind assassin is interesting, but there are also some interesting dramatic elements that happen between him and John Wick, since they used to be dear friends and now he's kind of ordered to kill him. I absolutely love the intro scene where we see him visibly struggle with accepting this mission that he knows he has to take, but he doesn't want to, because John Wick is a true friend, as he is to so many people in this world. And since I'm now talking about the high table, that high table narrative has always been a bit much in my opinion. But to play devil's advocate, I gotta love just how every character in this world just truly bone deep believes into the power of the high table. It almost feels like a commandment from God as far as they're concerned. Though by that same token, they take things way too far in this film. It gets absolutely preposterous. Of course, we've seen a lot of crazy shit in public places in the previous John Wick films, but Chapter 4 takes that to a whole new dizzying and crazy height. Look no further than that rave party massacre, which we see hinted at during the trailers. I don't know about you guys, but I don't care how many drugs you've taken, if you see in the corner of your eye some guy like 2 feet away getting hacked to pieces with a fucking axe, you're gonna trip the fuck out. But no, in this world, everyone's still dancing away. It's wild, and that's not even the worst offender. Later in the film, there's a scene that just goes beyond the pale. It's a cool scene, don't get me wrong, but in terms of world building logic, what the fuck? The only way any of this makes sense in my mind is that in this alternate reality where all the John Wick films happen, every single human being on planet Earth is in on the scheme, and they know that, well, this world is just filled with professional assassins and they'll just kill people in broad daylight right in front of me. Frankly, it reaches the point where it's almost like a pure comedy. Alright, one final bit of complaint I have to bring up, and that'll be for Bill Skarsgård's character, Le Marquis. And before you freak out, I actually love everything about his character. He's quite the great villain, and he has some really interesting narrative moments throughout the film. But he plays a Frenchman who has the most atrocious French accent I've seen in a while in films. I'm perfectly trilingual, I speak French perfectly, and not only that, but I work with Parisians every goddamn day. I call bullshit on his accent. Sorry, Bill Skarsgård, you did a great job on everything in this character except for the French accent. So yeah, doubtless the film has a lot of wacky ideas and it doesn't all gel together perfectly. But nonetheless, it is a fever dream of creative power and complex choreography. As I've seen, there are quite a few criticisms that can be brought up to this film, and I do feel that it did bring down the average to, let's say, like an 8.5 out of 10 in my mind. But really, when I factor in just how incredible and out of this world the visual composition and action scenes are in this film, I feel more than okay bumping it to a 9 out of 10. It is an incredible achievement for action filmmaking. There's nothing that comes anywhere close to the kind of crazy artistic heights that this franchise has been not only reaching, but exceeding over and over again. It is quite the phenomenal win streak right now, and one of the most exciting films you'll probably see in 2033. Oh, and one more thing, I think I completely forgot to mention just how wonderful it is to be able to visit so many different parts of the world in this film. Obviously, I won't go too much in detail to avoid spoilers, and it's pretty much a given that we go to Paris in this film. We see the Eiffel Tower and a few other notable Paris locations in the trailers. And this might be more of on a personal note, but oh my god, Paris is beautiful. So many memories I have of these unique locations that I was like, oh my god, I remember that, I was there. Man, I'm due to go back to Paris and I can't wait. Paris, je t'aime. So that is all for today. Sorry if this video is a little bit late. I did promise myself that I would put out a video every 7 days, but I've just been adding more and more things on my shoulders. My plate is as full as it can be. So if it's gonna be 7 days, less or longer, bear with me. I'm alive, I'm hustling. I love this YouTube channel. I love just expressing my opinions and just seeing what you guys feel. So with all that being said, until next time, wishing you and your family nothing but the best. Take care and talk to you soon.